Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan video. In this video we're going to take a look at how the TEQ LR Uub does in the Cell Max event at 100%, well not 100%, at 79% in the hidden potential system after his recent Extreme Z Awakening. So for Uub, obviously kind of a interesting EZA. A unit that has a ton of versatility and a ton of usability, but we'll take a look at just how good he does against high levels of damage and obviously required defensive performance. So before we truly begin, let's run through the disclaimer that I usually run for the Cell Max event. So as you guys should know by now, the Cell Max event is an incredibly hard event in Dbz Dokkan battle. The event itself is best taken on with damage reduction, guard, or evasion, or sometimes a combination of both. Generally speaking, units that just rely on raw defense are going to need around 550,000 defense simply to take no damage from normals. It's a very hard event, and there are boosted characters for this event. Now, in terms of taking on Cell Max, one big advantage units to have is if they are int type. Being int type means that you have guard and tremendously helps you in the final phase. Not to mention as well that in terms of Cell Max, the first two phases are pretty quick. So because the first two phases are so quick, it actually makes the event a little bit more difficult because you actually can't stack or build up really well in this event. So for example, any unit that stacks to gain defense immediately tends to struggle a little bit in the event against Cell Max, just due to the high threshold requirements and the first two phases really not being that long. Like, they really aren't that long at all, so it honestly just makes it way harder to get everything done. That being said, of course, there are a couple things that you're going to want to obviously be aware of. So in terms of the general performance of Uub, I think he does fine. He's got good defense for the first couple phases, which is great. Obviously, the big thing about Uub is his heal, his transformation. He will transform when you are below 50% health. Now, if you take a really strong team, the first two phases are going to go by so quickly that you're not going to transform. I think I had to run this stage about 5 or 6 times just to get him to transform, because by the time I would get to the tech phase, he would always be in his base form, and yeah, I mean, it's not like it's bad, but it's just not really what we want to see. We want to see the transform state. So it is that kind of premise. Obviously, he does get a lot better individually after his transformation, so it's just kind of understanding and measuring up the different mechanics that occur to best utilize Uub, especially if you're running him on the main rotation. Now, of course, as always, we'll talk a little bit about Uub, but the two differences between the forms are quite significant. In his base form, he basically is quite simple. He gains key and attack and defense depending on how much health he has, as well as also giving allies 20% attack and defense. Really nothing too crazy. He raises attack and defense on his super, and when you're below 50% health, you will recover 40% health back and he'll transform, which is what I had mentioned earlier. So obviously, in his transform state, things are a little bit different. So in his transform state, the thing with Uub is that he has a couple things going on. So if there's a margin power category ally that is on the same rotation as Uub, then we're going to be seeing something a little bit different. Basically, Uub will give the rest of the rotation 40% support in that situation, but he won't himself gain anything more than 120% attacking defense. Now, if there is no other margin power, no other margin power category ally on the team, on the rotation at the time that Uub has transformed, then we will see Uub with basically double his stats, so 120% attack and defense additional. which is good. Basically, we should see a much improved version of him. Obviously, the big thing is whether you want the support or not. Personally speaking, I always think there's, in this kind of event, you probably don't want the support, just because you probably want him to be able to tank as much of the normal attack as possible if you're floating him as a support. In terms of everything else, obviously one of the big things as well, when it comes down to it, is that he makes rainbow orbs, which is super duper helpful. It facilitates a lot of units. It's an incredibly helpful ability. And he also gains attack and defense at 30% per rainbow orb as well. So if you can grab 2 or 3 rainbow orbs, you tend to see a better performance or better version of Uub than you might have seen previously. So there's clearly a established consensus that Uub is the kind of unit that has a large, kind of bevy of versatility that he brings to a team. It's not just that he rocks up himself and does decent stats, which he does. He does have decent stats, but it's more so that he can actually augment what your team is doing at the time. Now for Cell Max, I don't think Uub is a great choice, unless you really desperately need one final unit to run like a GT team. I just don't see Uub really fitting in with any team to be any kind of level of importance against Cell Max. His heal could come in handy, of course, but you're probably going to want to heal to full anyway anytime you face Cell Max, just due to the fact of how much damage he does. And it's no slight on Uub to say that he struggles against Cell Max. I think so many different units actually struggle against Cell Max, so it really honestly does not matter that much if he does badly against Cell Max. Like I said, it's pretty apparent that most units do struggle with facing Cell Max. It's just basically part of the business, and it's just how things roll realistically when you're facing him, because of just his design and how difficult he is and everything like that. So Uub not really being designed to handle the scale of Cell Max is not surprising, but like I said, he does bring some useful tools. So if you just need a floating rainbow orb changer, maybe to set up some kind of plan or some kind of action, he's probably your best bet. So yeah, obviously there's kind of a little bit of an understanding that he brings more versatility and utility to a team lineup than raw output. And I just think in terms of Cell Max, he doesn't necessarily have the required output to really do like a good job. He could still be useful for the heal, but generally speaking against Cell Max, units have to survive, either through evasion, damage reduction, guard, whatever the mechanic is, they have to survive while you output damage. Healing does help, but if a unit is just going to lose all of that healed health in one hit, it's kind of like contradictory to the actual performance that's required. So for me, although I like Uub, although I think he is a unit that's very interesting, I think ultimately at the end of the day, he doesn't have the required output to really make a dent in this event. We got 2 clips here. One clip will be of him in a lineup with their Martian Power unit. So he's providing 40% support to the rotation, so we can get an idea of just how well he does. Obviously, 389k, not really great. He can't debuff him. He will raise his defense a little bit, which will help, but it's not going to go up like a huge amount. So yeah, like I said, he heals you, but then he basically loses all of that in one go. If you really wanted to use him, the best bet would be to use him as a floating support, and then to just pray that Cell Max is not attacking that slot, because then at least you won't take any damage. You'll get the heal, and then you'll get some additional support from him, which will be pretty good. So yeah, obviously now the second rotation is going to be with him as the only Martian Power unit on the rotation. This is going to improve his defense, but not so much to the point that he can tank normals. So we took 390 and then I think 250. You're going to see this improve a little bit without a Martian Power unit on the rotation. But again, it's not going to improve so much to the point where he's going to, be able to take Cell Max like with ease. You could see there the damage he received on the normal went down. He then fires a super attack and he's going to get hit by a ultra super attack, from Cell Max. And yeah, it's just really it's not there. Like at the end of the day, he's good, but just not for the Cell Max event. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.